Traffic roared like a caged beast as Derek and Maya walked shoulder to shoulder down the city sidewalk. Date night was arriving late, a stolen moment carved from their relentless schedules. Derek, an accountant, drowning in spreadsheets, joked he might as well pitch a tent in his office. His long hours cast a shadow on Maya too. As a middle school teacher, her days were a gauntlet of teenage angst and overflowing inboxes. Usually, she craved the sanctuary of their couch, a shared blanket, and their familiar comfort of a well-worn novel, or their go-to sitcom. But lately, even those small pleasures felt like a distant memory. It's that ridiculously fancy place off Third, isn't it? Maya nestled closer as they descended the grimy steps into the subway's maw. Derek's smile was laced with a secret, a thrill at keeping his fiancée guessing. Maya's mind raced, conjuring images of upscale restaurants, her mental Rolodex spinning. Nope. Nice try, he said, a playful stomp echoing with each step. I don't think you'll crack this one, sweetheart. He knew she wouldn't. The surprise was brand new. Perched atop one of the city's most luxurious hotels and one of its tallest, the restaurant offered an impossible, breathtaking panorama of the city. He imagined the precise moment her eyes would widen as the elevator whisked him up 50 stories to their reservation. But Maya, fueled by the challenge, only dug deeper, searching for clues in his cryptic smile. Lost in their private game, they failed to register the unsettling emptiness of the subway platform. They stepped into the train car, surprised by the abundance of empty seats. They huddled together, Maya still beaming, though Derek's excitement seemed to flicker. The train doors slammed shut with a violent clang, metal shrieking against metal. The train lurched forward, accelerating with unnatural speed. Faster, he was sure, than he'd ever noticed before. Maya, oblivious, didn't feel the sudden tension coiling in his shoulders. His eyes darted around the car, searching for another passenger, a sign of normalcy. But his gaze met only empty seats stretching into the dimly lit distance. The train rattled and roared, a metal serpent devouring the tunnel. Derek scratched the back of his neck, a nervous tick. It's a little empty, don't you think? His words died in his throat. A figure stood at the far end of the car. Relief washed over him, and he chuckled. dismissing his unease. Maya smiled, assuming he'd answered his own question. You should have given me a sneak peek at the cocktail menu so I could start strategizing, she said, clinging to his arm, her eyes fixed on his face. But his expression had shifted, the playful anticipation replaced by a creeping unease that had nothing to do with cocktails. The man who had brought him a moment of relief was now the source of his dread. A dark scowl twisted his features, his eyes fixed on them with unsettling intensity, as if they'd broken some unspoken rule. The man moved slowly, deliberately, closer and closer towards him, his gaze unwavering. Derek wondered if he should speak, offer an apology even. Perhaps the train was reserved or undergoing maintenance, though its speed defied that logic. The man stopped before them, close enough to touch. He was well dressed, but his eyes were devoid of warmth. His face a mask. Maya glanced at Derek, seeking guidance, mirroring his silence and growing apprehension. This train's gone nowhere, the stranger said, his voice flat, robotic. There was no inflection, no emotion. The couple waited for an explanation, a reason, but the man offered nothing more. He turned and walked back the way he had come, disappearing into the shadows. Sir? Maya called out, but it was too late. He was gone. She doubted he would have answered anyway. They sat in stunned silence, grappling with his words. The train screamed through the tunnel, a paradox of motion and stagnation. Maya caught glimpses of the stations they hurtled past, each one deserted, the train making no attempt to stop. Why isn't it stopping? Derek shook his head, his mind blank. He had no answers, no theories, only a growing sense of dread. The longer the train hurtled on, the more he wondered if there was a terrible truth in the stranger's words. He didn't want to believe it, especially if that man was somehow in control. He stood up abruptly, Derek, and moved towards the other end of the train, desperate for an explanation. Derek didn't want to leave Maya alone, but he had to do something, to find something, anything. Maya's jaw tightened with fear. She pressed her face against the cold glass, searching the darkness for a sign, a clue, anything to make sense of the terrifying journey. Derek moved further down the train, but his vision blurred, and a wave of nausea crashed over him. The train had devolved into a dizzying labyrinth, a chaotic vortex of steel and speed. Derek felt utterly lost within its confines, each carriage a distorted echo of the last. He spun, his equilibrium betraying him, and lurched back in the direction he hoped would lead him to Maya, his fiancée, his anchor. Meanwhile, with every relentless clickety-clack of the wheels on the tracks, a chilling certainty solidified within Maya. The stranger's grim pronouncement echoed in her mind. This train was a runaway. Each station platform blurred past in a fleeting, mocking glimpse, a silent testament to their isolation. The train was a phantom, untouchable, unreachable. No one could board. No escape was possible. A flicker of movement caught her eye. She saw Derek, disoriented and struggling, crawling towards her. A gasp escaped her lips, a mixture of relief and terror. She surged forward, meeting him halfway, her knees hitting the grimy floor with a painful thud. Words were unnecessary, rendered superfluous by the raw, primal fear that pulsed between them. Their eyes locked, and in that shared gaze, the horrifying truth was laid bare. They were prisoners of the speeding metal beast, hurtling towards an unknown, unlikely, catastrophic destination. They were trapped, utterly and irrevocably, until some unimaginable force intervened, until something, anything, derailed this relentless journey into the abyss. But was that even possible? Had they crossed some invisible threshold into a realm where the laws of physics, of reality itself, no longer applied? The realization crashed over them like a tidal wave, leaving them gasping for breath in its wake. They clung to each other, a desperate embrace against the encroaching darkness. Maya buried her face in Derek's shoulder. The rough fabric of his jacket, a small comfort against the cold dread that was consuming her. Derek wrapped his arms around her, holding her as tightly as he could, as if he could somehow protect her from the impending doom. Fear, now a tangible entity, coursed through them, mirroring the relentless, unstoppable momentum of the train. It was a living thing, feeding on their terror, growing stronger with each passing second. The rhythmic clatter of the wheels became a macabre soundtrack to their despair, each beat a countdown to the unknown. Outside, the world was a blur, a fleeting landscape of greens and browns that offered no solace, no hope of rescue. They were sealed off, isolated in their metal cage, hurtling through a world that could no longer touch them. The train screamed through the night, a metallic banshee, wailing its mournful song. Maya and Derek held each other tighter, two souls adrift in a sea of fear, praying for a miracle, a reprieve, anything to break the relentless, terrifying rhythm of this runaway train. They were bound together, not just by love, but by a shared terror, a shared fate, hurtling towards an uncertain and terrifying destiny. The train was their prison, their tomb, and their only companion on this journey into the heart of darkness.